I began to worry about Rumi, decided to give her a call. The phone rang several times before it went to voicemail. The fact that she hadn't picked up made me all the more anxious. I was still staring at my phone when I got a call of my own. When it appeared at incoming call display, my heart nearly stopped. There was Tateno's name. Emilio, you do Minorikawa today.
For a moment, I didn't recognize the man now idling his sedan at the curb. But when I took a closer look, I realized it was Kenji Osawa. Oh, Mr. Osawa. Sorry, but I haven't been able to look into that thing you asked about yet.
I see. That's quite all right.
Osawa looked pale and haggard. My reporter's sense started tingling. This guy is the key to something. I recalled what I'd heard the detective and his buddy talking about back at the scene of the explosion. Roughly 8 hours ago, they infected Maria Osawa with the Uwa virus. If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms, you're caught up in something big, aren't you?
How do you know that?
Because the reporter said simply, I'm Minorikawa. Osawa rolled his eyes.
Well, that'll make this simpler, I guess. Get in. I'll tell you everything.
I hesitated. This might be my big chance to land a beyond incredible scoop. Yet, it felt like it was too late to matter. Still, landing a major story, selling out an issue of 4-star general gossip, and putting Heaven Publishing on the road to solvency. All that was the least I could do with Toyama's new memory. You don't drop a story until you have what you need. Maybe it was too late to save Toyama. But I got in the car. Osawa's tale was beyond anything I had imagined. They send you threatening emails, devise a plan to kidnap your daughter in order to get the antiviral. And now that that's failed, they're turning to bioterrorism? Finally, I was able to flesh out the story behind the conversation I'd overheard earlier. And it as I did, I could feel a growing sense of exhilaration. So basically, they're now effectively holding all the people in Shibuya hostage and demanding the antiviral? Is that it? Before Osawa could answer it, a new idea occurred to me. Wait, hold on. Why didn't they just start by holding the whole city hostage? Why did they need to go through all the trouble of kidnapping your daughter?
I don't know.
Osawa said, shaking his head.
Perhaps they wanted the ransom money?
For a mere 50 million yen? I can't imagine international terrorists bothering for that much.
You can't know how terrorists think.
Osawa spat. Let's just assume, though. Could there be some other reason they abducted your daughter? Osawa didn't reply. He was probably too preoccupied with finding a way to save his infected daughter to think about anything else. Still, something about the course of events didn't quite add up to me. But whatever the case, if the criminals were after this antiviral, then sticking with Osawa ought to bring me closer to the truth. I was still mulling that over when we arrived at the laboratory. Two men hopped out of the car and were immediately rushed by a pair of security guards, who subdued them in a matter of moments. "Hey!" Minorikawa protested. "What the hell is this?"
Unhand me!
Osawa yelled.
I'm Kenji Osawa! This is my lab!
But evidently, that didn't matter to the guards. Another man emerged from the building. He and Osawa exchanged a few brief words. Judging from the tone of the conversation, this was someone who outranked Osawa at the company.
Emilio.
Take him away. As the newcomer looked on, the guards dragged Osawa into the building. "Hey!" Minorikawa shouted. I shouted at the man as he began to walk away. "Don't you know what's going to happen to Shibuya? Don't you care? If you just stand by and let the people of this city die, Okoshi Pharmaceutical is going to be held responsible." The man stopped in his tracks. "And if that happens, you'll be ruined personally, too," I added. "You know I'm right." "That will be up for the police to decide." "You're going to regret this. Don't be a fool." My resolve was unwavering. My pen would mete out justice. He might have come close to forgetting what I might have come close to forgetting what I once stood for. But now, the old fire was back. "I see. It seems this isn't something to leave unchecked." The man gestured with his jaw. "Take him as well." More security guards surrounded me. "Hey! Stop it! Let me go!" Though I struggled fiercely, there was no escape. Once I was dragged through those laboratory doors, I never wrote another article again.
As I was driving past Aoyama, I noticed a man that I recognized walking along. Pulled up alongside him and called out through the window. Mr. Minorikawa.
Oh, Mr. Osawa. Sorry, but I haven't been able to look into that thing you asked about yet.
I see. That's quite all right. The business with I and Tanaka could wait until later. Right now, I needed to focus on protecting Shibuya. If I didn't get my hands on that antiviral,
You're caught up in something big, aren't you?
how do you know that?
Because I'm Minoru Minorikawa.
Well, the man's egotism had some justification. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe I didn't know the details. But he clearly had some inkling about my situation. Something clicked in my mind. I was up against a wall. Akoshi Pharmaceutical had told me they were going to just let Maria die. I was past the point where I could resolve this peaceably, but I'm not going to give up without a fight. When it came time, I was sure this guy could help me. Well, that'll make this simpler, I guess. Get in. I'll tell you everything. Minorikawa thought for a moment, then got into the passenger seat. As I drove to the lab, I filled Minorikawa in on all the details. The reporter listened intently, occasionally interrupting to ask a question.
So, how are you planning on getting your hands on the antiviral?
He asked when I had finished. I'm not sure. I figured I'd think of something after I got there. Minorikawa let out a nasal chuckle.
Just improvising, huh? Ah, well. I'll back you up. At least I know I've found my way into something important.
We pulled up outside the lab and the two of us got out of the car. Immediately, a team of security guards burst out throughout the gate and forced myself to the ground.
Hey!
Minorikawa protested.
What the hell is this?
The guards had grabbed him as well. Unhand me, I yelled. I'm Kenji Osawa. This is my lab.
Mr. Osawa!
Minorikawa shouted.
What the hell is going on here?
But I was just as confused. I looked up to see Makino standing before me. Sir, tell these thugs to let me go. But Makino just frowned silently down at me. So, not only will you not help me, you're actively getting in my way. I glared up at my boss. Maria's life, no, countless human lives, are at risk.
And there's nothing that you alone can do. That's what I need you to understand.
Makino gave a signal to the guards, who proceeded to drag me away. I writhed with despair at my own impotence. In the end, there was nothing I could do. Still, I just have to take Makino at his word. Right now, that was my only course of action. I sat down in front of my computer and quietly closed my eyes. If only I could just go to sleep and wake up tomorrow morning and find all of this resolved. All I'm asking for is a miracle. But I knew reality would never be so kind. I could hold my eyes shut as long as I wanted, and it wouldn't make this hopeless situation go away. I felt the anxiety welling up inside me until it seemed like I was going to explode. Needing a distraction from my helplessness, I opened up Ayanet. I knew this was mere escapism, but I couldn't just sit and do nothing while waiting for Makino to call back. I posted a new topic with the title, Aya Fortune Teller. I tried the Aya Fortune Teller. My results basically said I was a bad person who can't connect to the people around me. And you know what? That's exactly right. I'm only interested in my own little world. It's probably why my wife and my assistant at work got so fed up with me. It's the same with my two daughters. What sort of things are they interested in? Do they have a lot of friends? What are their aspirations for the future? I don't know any of those things. It never even occurred to me to find out. I'm such a terrible father. My fingers ceased their tapping on the keyboard as I thought back to when Maria and Hitomi were younger.
Kyle.
Daddy!
Get up one.
The two girls would follow me around like a pair of puppies. I was their everything. That much was clear just by looking at their faces. I felt a ticklish giddiness at having my girls cling to me so. Never felt anything like this in my life. But there were times when I also found it tiresome. I am sick of being the person I am. There's nothing I can do about that, though. I'm sure it's far too late for me to change. I poured out all my negative emotions into my post. It felt like stream of consciousness drivel, but I didn't hesitate to write it down all the same. I wanted other people to know what a miserable excuse for a human being I was. At last, when I couldn't think of anything else to add, I posted my bitter confession to the forum. I was staring numbly at the monitor when I heard a furious shout from the next room.
Kyle.
You have got to be kidding me.
Oh, never mind.
It was Kajiwara, and I had never heard him so angry. I headed into the living room and found Kajiwara embroiled in a vehement argument with the other detectives. I don't care what HQ's policy is. I will not just quietly go along with this. Kajiwara had already screamed himself red in the face.
Justin.
You're out of line.
Snapped one MPD detective.
Hold your tongue.
I don't care if I'm out of line.
You may have talent. I'll give you that.
The other detective said.
But you're a precinct detective. This isn't your jurisdiction. It's not your place to question orders from the higher-ups.
Wait, I thought. Kajiwara really is a real detective after all?
Go on. Explain the situation to Mr. Osawa.
Kajiwara bit his lip in frustration at the other detective's order. Very well, he said. But before he could say more, I noticed that the police equipment had all been cleared off of the table. Hold on, I said. What's going on? Has something happened? Allow me to explain, sir, Kajiwara said. His bitterness showed plainly on his face. We've been recalled, sir. I narrowed my eyes, fighting to keep the confusion from my face. What do you mean by that? I was shaking, terrified to have my suspicions confirmed.
I'm truly sorry, sir, for having been unable to help you.
Kajiwara gave a deep and solemn bow. But Maria? What's going to happen to Maria?
Another unit has been tasked with bringing your daughter into custody, sir.
That much, at least, I could process. You're going to place her under quarantine, aren't you? Kajiwara's lips stiffened, but he nodded.
In order to minimize the spread of the virus, so I'm told.
No! I cried. You can't do that! If you do, there won't be any way to save her! My head spun. Please, I beg of you. You need to get Maria to me. I might be able to save her. When Kajiwara didn't respond, he turned to the other detectives. Please! You can't place Maria under quarantine. But the detective's only answer was to avert their eyes. Why are you all ignoring me? Please, you have to listen. If you bring her to me, I can figure something out. I know I can. Plunked myself down on the floor, yelling and flailing my arms like a child throwing a tantrum. The detectives exchanged sullen looks with one another, then walked off and left me there. I knew I must be a sorry sight, but nevertheless, I kept shouting after him. Please, don't stand by and let my daughter die. Only Kajiwara remained with me in the living room.
I'm sorry, sir. This was beyond my ability to stop.
He gave another apologetic bow. I felt suddenly deflated. No, you've done a fine job, Detective Kajiwara. It's me who should be sorry. I've made such a disgraceful display of myself.
That's not true, sir. In fact, I'm deeply moved. I can tell how much Maria must mean to you.
I shook my head. If I'd really been thinking about Maria, I would have made an effort to work with you detectives more. That was all just self-absorbed shouting. A moment of emotional selfishness.
And yet, as a result, you convinced me to stay here with you.
Kajiwara proceeded to pull out his phone and put in a request with the task force headquarters to remain at the Osawa residence. He got into a heated spat with his commanding officer, but ultimately received permission to stay on as the police liaison with me.
Well,
The detective said when he'd hung up.
you see, there are some people who are legitimately moved by a parental display of emotion, even if I'm not certain that I can do very much in staying here with you.
That's not true, I replied. There's plenty you can help me with. I looked into Kajiwara's face and smiled. For instance, let's have the banana. Yeah. I can have a banana whenever I want. Kajiwara returned my grin even more brightly.
Yes, yes, of course. By all means, have as many as you like.
He then produced a pair of bananas from his pocket, handing one to me. I peeled my banana and I took a hearty bite. The mild sweetness was pleasant and soothing. It was a flavor that brought back memories. I often go to bananas when I go to the park with my daughter.
I often eat bananas when I go to the park with my daughter.
Kajiwara muttered between mouthfuls. I didn't realize you had a daughter, Detective.
She just started grade school this year.
Oh, really? She must be adorable.
Well, I don't get to see her as much as I'd like.
A lonely sort of smile crossed Kajiwara's face. Why's that?
Doing this job caused me to neglect my family. Finally, about 2 years ago, my wife hit me with the divorce paperwork. I wanted to be able to keep our daughter with me, but... well, the law tends to favor the mother when it comes to custody issues.
The detective then pulled 2 bars of chocolate from his pocket.
It's good to have something sweet when you're exhausted, he said.
I took one, but said nothing.
More recently, my ex-wife has been talking about getting remarried,
Kajiwara continued.
and she wants me to stop seeing our daughter.
He bit into his own chocolate bar with a soft snap.
It's no less than I deserve, but it still hurts.
I couldn't help but sympathize. The man was losing his daughter. Here was someone I could really talk to. I was sure of that much now. Detective, I apologize. I've kept things from you because I was worried that they involved classified corporate information.
Oh?
Kajiwara's eyes glimmered with interest. Earlier today, I received some emails. They could be pertinent to the case.
Would you mind letting me see them?
I shook my head. On the contrary. Back in front of my computer, I saw that IANet was still open. Pretty Honey had responded to his own forum, had responded to my forum post. Yeah, I'm gonna read it. One moment. Just let me read this. I read the response. I got that same result. Do you really think it's too late? Don't give up hope. Hang in there. It's never too late. Every family has its share of problems. Like, you'll never find one that doesn't, I'm sure. When it comes to family, there's no such thing as game over. So don't let it get you down, Julie. Besides, I did learn one thing from reading your post. In the end, a father's happiness is his daughter's happiness. Kajiwara peered into the monitor.
A young girl is posting to a forum for people 40 and older.
It's pretty, honey. She always replies to my threads. The detective furrowed his brow.
I see.
Is something the matter?
No. That last line there just has me curious, is all. A young girl writing something like that. Well, that's neither here nor there right now. Let me see those emails if you would.
I opened my email and pulled up the images of the human testing on the monitor.
What is this?
Kajiwara stared at the monitor, as if unable to look away. These are images from unauthorized clinical testing of an antiviral drug I developed, carried out by my company without my knowledge.
Images of a... I'm sorry. What was that?
The detective frowned at the unfamiliar terminology. In simple terms, the antiviral is a wonder drug to combat the UA virus.
Hold on. Maria is infected with the UA virus. Isn't that right?
Yes, UA is a species of virus discovered in South Africa relatively recently. Roughly 12 hours after infection, patients develop a cough, then a fever, then begin vomiting, and ultimately begin to bleed uncontrollably from all over, resulting in death. The mortality rate is... I was reluctant to say it. Kajiwara held his breath, waiting. It's nearly 100%. Kajiwara shuddered.
But wait,
He said after a moment.
if you have this wonder drug, then Maria...
I shook my head. Without Tanaka, I have no means of getting it out of the lab. Kajiwara's frown deepened.
I see. It may not be much to go on, but I think we can put together at least one piece of our little mystery here. Pardon me one moment.
Kajiwara inspected the email address of the sender, A, then brought up the mail header.
You don't see email addresses like this much. It's seemingly from a foreign country, but that may be fake.
You can tell that just from the email. The detective flashed a little grin.
Take a look here. So if we just do this, and then this...
His fingers flew over the keyboard, calling up the header details. Singling out the received from field.
This set of 4 numbers at the bottom is the sender's IP address. Think of it as an ordinarily hidden location marker of sorts.
As he spoke, the detective pulled up a website called IP Station. He copied and pasted the set of 4 numbers and pressed the enter key. The monitor showed the name of the provider, connection method, and other such details. I couldn't make heads or tails of most of it, but one thing drew my eye. Access point. Shibuya Ward, Tokyo. Kajiwara went into the email program's options and checked the server info for my connection. Deep furrows formed in his forehead.
This is the same provider that you use, Mr. Osawa.
What does that mean?
What kind of internet connection do you have here at your house?
What sort? Well, it's plugged in over there, but pointed at the router.
And does everyone in your family use that same line?
Yes, I think so. Kajiwara opened up a command prompt, then typed ipconfig.
Okay, so if the same numbers we saw before pop up here, that's a bad sign.
Oh? I stared at the monitor. Kajiwara pressed enter, and a black window covered in white alphanumeric characters appeared. What the heck?
What the heck?
Kajiwara muttered under his breath. Wait, what's going on? I asked.
Explain simply, so
Explain simply so that I can understand.
faking an email address is simple enough. But the typical person wouldn't be able to fake an IP. It's very likely that these emails were sent from another computer inside this house.
I had to stifle a gasp. The emails had been sent from my own house at around 11 o'clock this morning. Since I hadn't sent them myself, that left only one possible culprit. Suddenly, my phone rang, nearly startling me out of my seat. Makino's name showed on the incoming call display. I quickly picked up.
Emilio.
Is there an update on the emergency board meeting?
He blurted. Makino's voice was quiet and subdued.
I tried pulling whatever strings I could, but to no avail. I'm afraid holding a board meeting today just won't be possible.
The phone fell from my hand. My only possible means of saving Maria was now gone.
Detective Tateno? Detective Tateno? Is that you? So about the things I wanted to ask. Just what had Tateno been doing this whole time?
Wait, didn't you already do this?
Yeah, you're right. Detective Tateno? Where are you? Getting no response, I begin to walk around the rooftop, calling out several more times. It's Kano. I've come as you asked. Where's Hitomi Osawa? Oh wait. Never mind. This might be Emilio. Go ahead, Emilio. What do you mean by that? Emilio, boost your gain slightly.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's much better.
What do we read?
Yeah, go ahead.
The truth is, I didn't even care if I died doing what I did. That's why I doused myself in gasoline.
Tom's voice had gone low and quiet.
There was no display of heroics. It was more attempted suicide than anything else. I wasn't thinking about the other people still inside the building. It was just a coincidence things turned out the way they did.
So then, they made a single misstep.
That everyone in that building will burn to death.
You're lying! That can't be true! I shook my head insistently. I don't have time for this conversation.
I don't have time for this conversation.
Tateno pressed the barrel of his gun to Maria's head.
If you don't bring Hitomi Osawa to me, believe me, I'll blow her brains out.
Please, stop this! I shouted. But there was no hesitation in Tateno's eyes. It looked like he really would shoot Maria if I didn't do it as he asked.
Hurry up. Bring Hitomi to me.
Could you at least tell me what's going on?
Go now, or so help me, I'll shoot.
I drew my gun from my own jacket. I know you're Detective Tateno. I know there's some meaning behind all this. My words came out as an imploring croak.
You think you could shoot me?
Tateno spat.
Let
Let
it
out
go.
Karawan
Oh.
go free. Taking Maria hostage. This has to mean something. Suddenly, my hands slick, where I clutched my gun.
I asked if you think you can shoot me.
I've always looked up to you. You were the sort of detective I wanted to become. My view of Tateno began to blur as tears welled in my eyes.
Can you shoot me, Kano?
I can! Even as I cried, I stood resolutely, doing my best to stare down the older man. I set my finger squarely on the trigger, pointing my gun at Tateno's forehead. Suddenly, the piercing stare vanished from the other detective's eyes.
I've got to give you full marks for that. Kano.
Tateno smiled thinly.
I'll tell you then. I'll tell you why I'm doing this. It all happened 17 years ago. A meth addict had assaulted someone in Shibuya.
Tateno was questioning people around Dogenseika in search of perp. He happened to pass by Endo Electronics. Go ahead, Frank. Frank. Panda. Oh, hey, Tateno. Oh. It was Kotone Endo, clad in pristine white. Clutched her breast was her daughter, Suzune, only a few months old. Kyle,
It's been a long time.
Kotone said. He flashed a tiny smile.
Yes, it has.
Tateno replied with a clumsy smile of his own.
Are you on the job?
Yes, I am.
Kotone recoiled slightly at a dour look on Tateno's face.
Is something the matter?
There's an armed criminal hiding out somewhere in this area.
What?
I wouldn't leave the shop for a while, if you can avoid it.
But I have to go to the bank to deposit some money.
Surely you can have Daisuke go do it.
He's away on a repair job and hasn't come back yet.
Tateno let out a one-note sigh.
I see Daisuke still does things his own way. Alright, let me escort you to the bank.
You mean it? I'd feel a lot safer having you with me.
Kotone flashed him a smile so wide that Tateno thought he might lose himself in it. Tateno, Kotone, and Daisuke were childhood friends. They gone to school together up through high school. Tateno and Daisuke were always clowning around together. And Kotone was always there alongside them, laughing. It had been quite some time since they'd gotten to walk along the spoke at Seika with Kotone.
How have you been lately?
Well, with a newborn to look after, it's been pretty hectic. But there's never a dull moment. Things have been good.
I'm glad to hear it.
Kotone was always as bright as a sunflower. Sometimes, Tateno managed to convince himself that just the sight of her was enough. Outside the bank, Kotone held Suzune out to him. Tateno received the baby with an anxious frown.
What's with the face?
I'm not good with babies. I haven't held one very often.
Oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry. Just hold on to her for a minute while I take care of things inside.
Alright.
He held the baby gingerly, like it was a bomb that might explode at any moment. Kotone chuckled softly. Suzune stirred and squirmed in Tateno's arms. He kinda has Kotone's eyes, he thought. With a strange sensation of holding a child. They're so soft and light, yet such a real and responsive presence. The faint warmth of her body warmed Tateno inwardly in turn. When Kotone returned after making her deposit, she strolled to a nearby park, Suzune back in her mother's arms.
Do you have any plans for marriage, Tateno?
I haven't thought about it. Work has me plenty busy.
Oh, that's just an excuse.
Kotone said.
If there really were some woman you wanted to marry, you wouldn't let work stop you.
Then I suppose it's because there hasn't been anyone I've felt that way about.
Really? Nobody. This whole time.
Yeah, really.
I see.
Still, seeing the two of you like this, it makes me realize how nice having a family could be.
Tateno peered deep into Suzune's face.
Said someone.
Someone go for it, I don't know. Panda.
Well, if it ain't Tateno.
Okay, listen. He looked up as a cheery voice cut into the conversation. It was Daisuke.
What are you doing here? Oh,
What are you doing here?
He asked his wife.
I could ask you the same question.
Come on, give me a break. I come to make the deposit for the client.
In that case, no need to worry. I just take care of it myself. I thought you'd forgotten about it.
Really?
Kotone smiled as Daisuke reached down and carefully lifted Suzune in his arms. Beaming happily at his daughter, he nuzzled up against her tiny cheek.
Daisuke, long time no see.
Yeah. Glad you're doing well for yourself, Tateno.
They walked side by side. Daisuke proudly showed off Suzune's drowsing face.
What do you think? Adorable, isn't she?
Yeah. Luckily she doesn't have your looks.
Hey now. Bad mouthing me the same as ever, huh?
Some things haven't changed since high school.
Why not drop by our place for a bit?
Daisuke offered.
Sorry. I'm in the middle of a job, actually.
Tateno turned to glance at Kotone. An instant later, Daisuke screamed.
Kotone!
A man had come up behind his wife and had a kitchen knife to her throat. Kotone stood stiffly, frozen in terror.
Let her go!
Tateno took a step towards the man. The slightly upturned eyes, the close cropped hair, the thin mustache. All the details matched the description. This had to be the man Tateno was after. Panda.
Your damn mouth! You wanna try and kill me, huh? This lady here wants to try and kill me!
The man was babbling nonsense. Reports had said that the suspect was a tweaker. Right now, his mind was probably a complete mess from meth withdrawal. Left unchecked, there was no telling what it might do. Tateno shoved Daisuke behind him and drew his gun from his jacket.
Wait, don't shoot! You hit Kotone!
But Tateno ignored Daisuke's shouts and turned his gun on Perp's shoulder. He was confident in his marksmanship. He would never miss at this range.
Tateno, please, back down!
Daisuke pleaded, Suzume still clutching his arms.
I beg of you!
I can't.
Tateno hissed under his breath.
This isn't someone we can reason with.
The assailant began waving his knife about. He could stab it into Kotone at any moment. Tateno had to take the shot now. He aimed for the shoulder arm the man held his knife in.
Tateno, stop!
Daisuke shouted.
Don't do this!
For a brief moment, Tateno's eyes met Kotone's. He thought he saw her give a tiny nod.
Don't shoot!
It was all over in an instant. By the time Tateno had the Perp subdued, Kotonoe's white shirt was soaked through with red. With Kotonoe's death, so too died Tateno's heart. But the feelings that lived inside him been reduced to cinders, leaving only a never-ending need to atone. Countless times he had thought of ending his life in order to make things up to Daisuke and his children. The only reason he didn't go through with it was that he knew death would be the easy way out. And so, he stayed on as a detective. He carried the weight of his sins with him for as long as he lived. This was the sentence Tateno gave himself. "15 years had passed since Kotonoe's death. For the first time, Tateno had gone to visit her grave. He was standing by the grave marker with his hands clasped when someone called out to him from behind. Daisuke, maybe?
Excuse me.
Oh. A slender young girl stood there, flowers in hand. Tateno instantly recognized her. Suzune. She looked just like Kotone had back in her high school days. Kyle,
Do you know my mother?
she asked.
Yes. We were classmates a long time ago.
Oh, really? Thank you so much for coming.
Suzune gave a slight bow, then gazed up at Tateno with her big, bright eyes.
You look just like her.
Tateno struggled to hold back the tears. Felt as if Kotone stood before him, returned to life.
My father tells me the same thing all the time.
I'm sure once you're all grown up, you'll be just as beautiful as she was.
A forlorn smile came to Suzune's face.
Once I'm grown up? Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I guess I really do have a lot in common with my mother, including the part where I'm going to die young.
Don't be ridiculous.
Tateno exclaimed.
Why would you say such a horrible thing?
Suzune took a step backward, looking shocked to be rebuked by a stranger.
My apologies.
She said hurriedly.
I didn't mean to startle you.
No, it's all right.
Suzune murmured, clutching the flowers close.
Honestly, it's not something I'd like to talk about myself. But I'm sick, so there's not really anything I can do to change it.
Sick?
I have a heart condition. A transplant is the only thing that can help me. But my blood type is a little bit weird. And it doesn't look like they'll be able to find me a compatible donor.
Then, bowing her head, Suzune stepped in front of the gravestones and clasped her hands in silence. Tateno felt a wrenching pain inside him, as if Kotone were being taken from him all over again. If there really was a god, why would he do such dreadful things?
Is there nothing I can do?
He nearly lamented aloud.
I'll do anything. Suzune, I'll do whatever I have to in order to save you.
Tateno clenched his fists as he stared at the grave.
Tell me, Kotone, what can I possibly do for your daughter? Please, tell me. Please.
And so the months rolled on. Everything changed just after 10 o'clock that morning. Tateno was on a stakeout when his cell phone rang. He glanced at the call display and saw Daisuke Endo's name. I hadn't heard from Daisuke in years now. Fearing that something had happened to Suzune, Tateno answered the call despite his current tense circumstances. I wanted to hear Daisuke wailing.
Suzune had a seizure. She might not come back from this one.
Tateno's terrible suspicions had been right on the mark. He found himself growing weak.
Please.
Daisuke exclaimed.
You need to shoot the girl. What? You need to shoot that girl you're with. That he told me, Osawa. You need to shoot her in the head. If we have her heart, we can save her.
At first, Tateno couldn't make sense of what Daisuke was saying.
Hurry up and shoot! Shoot her, please. He told me Osawa has the Bombay blood type.
Wait, hold on.
Tateno said, keeping his voice low.
You want me to kill Hitomi Osawa? Why?
He quickly scanned the area.
Daisuke, are you nearby? Wait, where are you?
Don't worry about that. If you can just render her brain dead, we'll be able to transport her heart into Suzune.
Shooting someone in the head didn't necessarily guarantee to wind up brain dead. When assuming it did, a Tateno shot the Osawa girl here in the middle of the scramble would cause a giant incident. By the time the autopsy was completed, the window for a heart transplant would surely have passed.
Tateno, shoot her, please.
Daisuke, I can't. You know I can't do that.
Hurry.
It's like his old friend wasn't even listening to him.
Look, even if she did wind up brain dead, they wouldn't be able to perform a transplant.
Daisuke kept on shouting.
It's fine. We'll be fine. I'll make the transplant work somehow.
You'll make it work?
Even knowing how ridiculous that was, part of Tateno wanted to know what he had in mind, if anything.
I finally found it. I found something we can do for Suzune. Please help me. Help her.
Tateno understood Daisuke's feelings painfully well. To be helpless to stop the suffering of someone you loved. Nothing in the world hurt as much as that.
I want to save Suzune.
I want to say Suzune. Tateno, this is the one thing I'll ever ask of you.
Tateno could hear choked weeping from the other end of the line. And at that sound, something inside him shifted. Yes, Daisuke was right. The likelihood of a transplant happening wasn't the issue. What mattered was that right now, he could take action, could do something for Suzune. He mustered up his resolve, feeling the doubt lift from his heart.
For Suzune. For the daughter of the woman I loved.
Tateno checked the gun tucked inside his jacket. He slowly began making his way through the crowd towards Hitomi.
Now you know why we're here.
Tateno gestured subtly with his gun. His barrel still pressed against Maria's temple. My own gun wavered in my hands. I was crying inside. There's nothing else I want to hear from Tateno now. Now, I was sure of one thing. Words were never going to stop this man.
Kano,
Tateno said.
at my age, I've seen all sorts of young detectives come and go.
He fixed his lonesome gaze on me.
And you're about the worst of the lot. Whenever it's time to take action, you immediately do something reckless. Do you know how many formal apologies I've had to write because of you?
Tateno let out a heavy sigh.
But you know, Kano, because of the way you've looked up to me, you've saved me. And that's the truth.
He sounded like a man speaking his last words.
Come on. See if you can stop me.
He pressed the gun harder against Maria's temple. I took aim at my former hero's head. Detective Tateno. My finger wavered on the trigger. Shoot him. You have to shoot him. You don't shoot him, Maria's going to die. I tried desperately to convince myself. I'm going to stop you. Tateno looked me coldly in the eye.
Do it. Do it then. Shoot me.
I stared right back. Tightened my finger on the trigger.
You want to go through this again? Or like...
Wait, did we go through? Wait, no, we don't have to. Hold on. Detective Tateno, where are you? Maria.
Is that me or?
No, that's Maria.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. A man's voice suddenly snaps me back into the moment.
It's Kano. I come as you asked.
The gunman grabs me by the arm and yanks me to my feet.
Where's Hitomi Osawa?
He snarls.
Why didn't you bring her?
Detective Tateno, why are you doing this? Is that really Maria?
My captor removes my blindfold. first thing I see is a huge blimp drifting slowly by overhead. Huh. I'm sure I've seen it before. And pretty recently at that. There's a flash of revelation inside my head. Like a dam bursting. My memories come flooding back to me. Last night, I was at a party. A sort of mixer with exchange students. Someone was plotting to use this party as an opportunity to abduct my sister, Hitomi. And so I told Hitomi that the party started 1 hour later than it really did. I had a plan. To let myself get abducted in Hitomi's place. Of course, the idea wasn't just to let myself get kidnapped. The necklace I wore was outfitted with a tiny GPS. Wherever I happened to be taken, Caanan would be able to track my location. What we hadn't counted on, though, was my necklace getting torn off when I was attacked. I'd managed to grab a hold of it, but I hit my head when I was being shoved into the car and it slipped from my grasp. I'm not sure how far we drove after that. In my fuzzy memories, I recall gazing blearily at the car window. That was when I saw the blimp, right after we parked.
Yes, we weren't fined.
There was a man talking to someone on a cell phone.
Alright, I'll shut her up inside the storeroom. I'll be waiting in the room upstairs.
The man dragged me out of the car and shoved me into some dark storeroom. Then, I guess for good measure, he hit me on the head. Again. That's right. There's more of it coming back to me now.
You've spent your life living in a country at peace. In Japan. You couldn't possibly understand me.
Caanan again. So it's not like she and I became fast friends right away or anything. The two of us were too different in a lot of ways.
Where do you draw the line? What would you protect with your life? What does justice mean to you?
A forlorn look came to her face whenever Caanan asked me a new question. And I never had a good answer for any of them. My flimsy grasp on my own personal identity made it hard for us to get along. Yet I kept visiting Canaan's place for the duration of my trip. I recall doing the cat's cradle there at the table one time when we didn't have anything in particular to talk about. Her eyes had gone wide when she saw me deftly manipulating the string with my fingers.
Who taught you how to do that?
She asked. My mother. My real mother, that is.
Caanan
furrowed her brow.
What do you mean, real?
As opposed to my stepmother, I mean. My birth mother died after getting really sick. I was only 5 years old, so I don't remember her that well.
I see.
Caanan said. Her expression remained unchanged. What about your parents, Caanan?
I don't have any. They died during the war.
The bluntness of her response made my hands stop, the string still stretched between them. Sensing that we were treading on some serious ground, I hurried to change the subject. Do you have any friends?
No. Well, I used to have one.
Her use of the past tense made me fear the worst. And I was right.
He was killed too. By an arms dealer named Alfred.
Her tone was dry, matter of fact.
Taking revenge for his death is my sole purpose in life.
Despite the gravity of her words, her face was an unreadable mask. She seemed almost incapable of human emotion. So, what sort of person is this Alfred?
A destructionist who masquerades as a terrorist.
Destructionist? That sure wasn't a term that came up a lot back in Japan.
Alfred doesn't believe in God and holds no political ideology. The chaos and destruction is just to earn money in order to carry out more terrorist acts.
So you're saying this Alfred commits terrorism because it's fun? Caanan nodded.
That's why, every now and then, Alfred changes loyalties. Just when you think you've found ties to some Middle East terrorist organization, turns out the job was for the American CIA.
What the heck? So, Alfred stands for nothing, then? Caanan smiled dismissively at my little childish outburst. I couldn't help but feel a bit patronized. I twiddled my fingers, turning my cat's cradle into a bridge. Caanan's eyes fixed right back on the string. A tiny surge of pride replaced my annoyance. She went quiet, watching closely as I worked my fingers. The tension in the room faded as the silence between us lengthened. My stepmother's the sort of person who couldn't do this sort of thing, I said at last. For some reason, I had a sudden urge to talk about my personal life. I guess she cares more about herself. I guess she cares about herself more than looking after her children. She's not a bad person, though. She gives me weird bits of advice, like telling me to find someone to date or that a woman's life is defined by a man. But it's not like I hate her or anything.
Would you mind teaching me?
Caanan asked softly. What? How to find a guy to date?
No.
She shook her head. Then she pointed to the cat's cradle strung between my fingers. Oh, you mean this? So I took her by the hand and started to teach her the cat's cradle. Hey, do you mind if I ask you something? I said after a while.
What's that?
That friend you mentioned earlier. What was he like? Caanan's fingers went still.
It's better if you don't ask. If I tell you, you won't want to come here anymore.
That's not true, I insisted.
even though I'm a terrorist?
She replied curtly. I swallowed a sudden lump in my throat, unable to find words.
We fight for righteousness, but you people call us terrorists. Am I wrong?
She cast a quick look at my face. But, I mean, you protected me. My voice wavered as I replied.
All I did was take down some thugs. I just didn't want them around.
What could I say to that? I just stammered.
Nah, I'm messing with you.
Huh? Caanan flashed me another slight, condescending grin.
I was just joking. Don't worry about it.
But I didn't get the sense that everything she'd said was a joke. Even if calling herself a terrorist was an exaggeration, the world Caanan lived in was unquestionably a dangerous one. I could tell that from the cold look in her eyes. A look you'd never expect from an ordinary teenage girl. Just what sort of hardships had she endured to acquire that deadly stare? Having lived all my life in peaceful Japan, I could scarcely imagine. Caanan tried and failed several times to get the cat's cradle right, but she didn't give up. She worked fastidiously by herself, fingers continuing to shift awkwardly about.
Okay, here we go.
She hooked the string around her fingers and spread her palms. But the string shape just collapsed into a jumbled mess.
Confound it. Okay, one more time.
You could make this into a game with two people, you know. I plucked the string from Caanan's hands. You pass the string back and forth. Why don't we try that? It's more fun than doing it by yourself. I wrapped the string around my fingertips. What do you say? Want to give it a go? Caanan looked dubious. The intricately intertwined strings were like the world, in a way. What had started as a single thread was now something that couldn't be undone just by pulling on it. I held my hands out, twirling the string around my fingers. Caanan took the pattern from me and spread her palms apart. She made a perfect bridge between her hands. The shy grin that came to her face made her finally look like a normal girl. I followed suit, with a childish little laugh of my own. And, as if in a blaze of sunshine, the fog that's been hanging over my mind finishes receding. I remember everything. My name is Maria Osawa. My sister is Hitomi Osawa. And Caanan. She's a dear friend who I met in a far-off land. She helped me once, and now it's my turn to help her. I close my eyes as I reflect upon these precious memories, all the dearer for having been lost. Now when I try to picture Caanan, I can do so clearly. It's just as I'd thought before. My memories are what make me who I am, and I would never choose to forget them. I feel almost as if time had stopped for me while my history was gone, and now it started moving again. I'm finally back to being me. And I have to go. I have to go back there. One more time.
Kyle.
Mr. Mino!
Chiaki threw herself at me as soon as I opened the door to the editing office. News of the explosion was playing on the television. I marched straight to my desk and opened up my laptop. While it booted up, I tried to get a handle on the current situation. "Where are the folks from the loan company?" I asked.
They're here.
Chiaki said.
I have them waiting downstairs.
"Do they know Toyama's dead?"
I'm sorry.
I kind of let that slip.
"What about Hana?"
I'm not sure. I haven't heard from her since she called earlier.
With a tiny sigh, I started typing at my laptop. By some miracle, my six pages of the copy were nearly wrapped up. Still, I needed to do whatever it took to see this job through to the end. That would serve as my final tribute to Toyama's memory. I loaded my copy into the DTP software in order to set the layout. Bit by bit, actual magazine articles began to take shape. Then the editing department door swung open.
Hey!
Snarled the young man who barged in first. He kicked over a stack of books.
How long gonna keep us waiting, huh? Frank,
Honestly, Sagawa, must you be so rowdy?
A middle-aged man stepped in alongside him.
Are you Mr. Minorikawa then?
He added as his eyes fixed on the journalist. He held out his business card.
A pleasure to meet you. I'm Osawa Ozu from Takarada Financing. My deepest sympathies about Mr. Toyama. However, I am afraid that we do need you to give us back the money we loaned.
Despite his polite tone, the threat in his voice was plain. Look, next month's issue of 4-Star General Gossip is definitely coming out. Couldn't you please wait for repayment until we have the funds from the sales? I asked. That was exactly what Toyama's plan had been, after all.
Well, we certainly aren't monsters. If the magazine is going to be making you money, we wouldn't mind delaying another month.
You really mean it? Oh,
You really mean it?
Chiaki chirped.
To clarify, that would be the case if Toyama were still alive. Releasing the next issue is all well and good, but with Toyama gone, so too is the company. That will make full repayment of whatever we're owed impossible, I expect.
And what do you want us to do? I asked coldly.
Or just cut to the chase.
Growled the younger man, Sagawa.
Chiaki isn't listen up.
Chiaki recoiled in a panic, and I held up an interposing hand. Knock it off, I said. You're scaring the young lady. Then smile came to Ozu's face.
All we want to know is where Mr. Toyama's daughter is.
Yeah, that's right.
Sagawa said.
That's where the girl is.
No way!
Chiaki squeaked in protest.
Hana's just a little kid. She doesn't have any responsibility to pay back the...
Ozu didn't let her finish.
We're aware of that. Nevertheless, we'd still like to know where she is.
The law didn't matter right now. Guys like this had all sorts of ways of wringing money out of people. It was clear from the looks on their faces that Ozu and Sagawa had some wicked scheme up their sleeves.
Unless, of course, you would prefer to take on Toyama's debts, Mr. Minorikawa. You are quite the accomplished reporter, after all.
Take on his debts, huh? I didn't know how much Toyama had borrowed, but it only took one look at these guys to tell me it was no small sum.
How about it?
Ozu asked.
The way you land scoop after scoop, I'm sure you'll be able to repay us in full before you die.
I fiercely returned his stare. Hey, screw it. Let's go. Alright. I'll take on his debt. My tone was resolute. But not just yet. Let me finish up this job here first.
Very well. I suppose we can wait at least a little while longer.
The two men from Takarada's financing plunked themselves down on the editing department sofa.
Mr. Mino, please, you can't agree to something like this.
If I don't, these guys are just going to keep threatening poor little Hana.
Still.
That's none of your concern, I said. What I need to know is, how's your piece on those street interviews coming?
But, I mean, those guys. They said it doesn't matter if the issue comes out or not.
Don't be ridiculous! When a professional agrees to take on a job, they see it through to the end. Chiaki took my point and scampered to grab the printout of her copy. I gave it a quick once-over. I saw immediately that the piece was lacking in structure. I then read the article a second time, checking the finer details. Several off-theme sentences jumped out at me. This is no good. Rewrite it. I thrust the printout back at Chiaki.
Yes, sir.
She bowed her head and retreated to another desk. The TV was still on. A news broadcaster's voice suddenly broke through the silence, as well as my concentration.
Panda.
We're live on the scene now, where an explosion in Shibuya has...
My gaze blankly. I gazed blankly at the screen. I found my mind drifting to a particular memory of Toyama. The door looked like it might fall apart at any moment, but I didn't care. I pounded on it as hard as I could. The Hoyama nameplate popped off and fell to the floor. It was hard to believe this dilapidated apartment was the home of a newspaper editor who'd worked his way up from reporter. Hey, Toyama! Get your ass out here! At the sound of my angry shouting, other tenants on the floor poked their heads out of their rooms to stare. I paid them no heed, continuing to call out. Eventually, Toyama opened the door, dressed in his sweats and undershirt.
Quiet down, you moron.
He snapped.
Come on in.
I hear you tendered your letter of resignation at the paper. I sat cross-legged on the tatami-covered floor. Tell me why. Toyama quirked a lopsided grin.
I know I quit, huh? Alright. Eating close.
I peered at him dubiously. Huh? Why?
I don't want anyone overhearing this.
Resigned, I leaned forward and turned my right ear towards Toyama. The man's warm breath against my cheek was pretty unsettling. At first, I had trouble concentrating on Toyama's story, but when the older man got to the crux of the matter, I found myself listening with rapt attention. By the time Toyama finished, I was unable to suppress my shock. You're starting your own publishing company?
So loud, damn it.
Toyama shushed me with a finger to my lips. He looked around warily, as if there might be spies in his own apartment. Right, but a publishing company? I said, what are you doing for your distributor accountant? All booksellers were required to use a wholesale distributor to circulate their publications. To do business with such a distributor, a publisher needed a specialized distributor account. You're not going to let a company with no track record open a new account with a distributor. I'm sure you must realize that. Toyama grinned, a proud gleam in his eyes.
I know. That's why I brought one.
You bought one?
A ghost account. Belonging to a publisher that went bankrupt.
Distributor accounts could go for tens of millions of yen. There is no way Toyama could afford that on his severance pay alone. He must have taken out a loan in order to make the purchase. But the publishing industry was in a slump nowadays. People just weren't buying books much anymore. Starting up a new publishing company was a beyond risky endeavor.
And I ordered this under the name for my company, Minorikawa.
Toyama's face was positively beaming.
Got this. Heaven Publishing.
Heaven? That sounds fatalistic.
The idea is that the people who work for me will feel like they're in paradise.
For all his fetching about keeping quiet, Toyama was now exclaiming pretty loudly himself. I mean, I can appreciate your willingness to take the risk, but surely your wife must have had objections, I said. Toyama fell silent. He went and opened up the refrigerator. I took a peek inside. Its shelves were mournfully spare, holding little besides beer cans and drinking snacks.
The missus left me. Took her daughter with her.
Those scant few words painted the picture clearly enough. Toyama grabbed a can of beer and tossed it to me.
No more sub-stories.
He went on. He briskly cracked open his own can of beer. Weak foam bubbled from the top.
Cheers, Minorikawa. The Heavens Publishing big debut.
He'd cast everything aside and was striving for a new beginning. If the man had braced himself for the challenge, it wasn't Minorikawa's place to tell him he was making a mistake. Even if it was an uphill battle, he had little chance of winning. Congrats, Mr. Toyama. I pulled the tab on my beer can.
Cheers.
Cheers. Two of them clacked their cans together. One year had passed since Toyama founded Heaven Publishing. I poked my head into the editing office, a bag from the convenience store in hand. Hey boss, how's business?
How does it look like it's doing?
Toyama sat amidst a veritable mountain of returned stock, his expression bleak. The books were all bulky, non-fiction tomes, not exactly the sort of to fly off the shelves. The man couldn't even muster a smile for their reunion.
Been like this for every non-fiction book we put out.
Wow. Starting right off with the bleak stuff, huh?
Because things are bleak. Everything they're selling is this gossip rag of ours.
I pulled some beer cans from my bag, handing one to Toyama. Toyama lifted an issue of 4-star general gossip from atop his desk. It was Heaven Publishing's one breadwinner, the only thing keeping the company afloat. But the gossip now seemed like it was buried in the red of the publisher's non-fiction releases.
I really did have higher aspirations than this.
Toyama sighed, gazing in disappointment at the piles of unsold books.
But here we are. The gossip magazine as the only viable publication.
The belugared bookseller chugged his beer.
Daddy, I'm hungry.
I was startled to hear a young child's voice. I turned around to see a little girl nestled between the stacks of returned stock.
That's my daughter Hana.
Toyama said.
It's complicated. She's living with me now.
I see. I couldn't press for more details with Hana right there. In all likelihood, things with Toyama's ex-wife hadn't been going well.
Go on, introduce yourself.
Toyama said.
It's one of Daddy's work friends.
Hana turned to me with a bright little grin.
Hello. My name's Hana. I'm 6.
You want some of this? I held out a packet of dried squid I'd bought to go with the beers.
Sure.
Hana greedily stuffed her cheeks with the squid. Toyama flashed a sheepish grin. You like living with your daddy, Hana? I asked, giving the girl's hair a gentle ruffle.
Uh-huh, I do. My daddy's amazing. He runs a company.
Toyama let out a tiny, involuntary sob at his daughter's ready praise.
I'll keep at it.
Toyama said, looking into his daughter's smiling face.
Hana's more important to me than any high aspirations I might have had. I keep shoveling out copies of gossip. Please make sure she's always got something good to eat.
Daddy, this is really tasty.
Hana held out the pouch of dried squid. Tears welled in Toyama's eyes.
Next time, I'll make sure you have some sashimi instead of something like this.
Hey, what do you mean, something like this? I grumbled. I'm the one who bought it. Toyama and his daughter laughed together. It was a heartwarming sight, I thought. A father and his girl getting along so well. I might have been a hard-hitting journalist, but when it came home at the end of the day, he was just daddy. It was only natural for the man, as a father, to put his child above anything else. After gorging herself on snacks, Hana fell asleep on the sofa, looking well and truly satisfied.
And now, Minorikawa, Hana's happiness means more to me than my lofty artistic ideals ever could.
Toyama kept his voice low as he regarded his daughter's sleeping face. And from that day forward, Heaven Publishing had shifted its focus to scandal rags, with 4-star general gossip as its pillar. Had that been for good or for ill? Whatever the case, Toyama had abandoned his pride. I had watched him become more and more of a miserable wretch. I snapped back into the present as a sheet of paper appeared in front of my face.
Here you go.
Chiaki said, radiating anxiety. Right. I gave her copy a close read-over, then thrust it back out to her. What did you even fix? I asked.
Could you please tell me what parts are wrong?
She mumbled, hanging her head. What are you talking about?
It's just, well, we don't have a lot of time here, so I figured if I just fix the parts that need fixing.
Chiaki trailed off into an indistinct mutter. Is that always how you go about fixing your copy?
Yes.
Then you're never going to get any better. If someone tells you it's no good, you rewrite the whole thing from scratch. Just making fiddly tweaks here and there is what an amateur does. Chiaki dipped her head even deeper, cringing at the reprimand. I let out a tiny sigh. Look, what I just told you, that's what Toyama told me when I was first starting out. There were times he'd have me do dozens of rewrites. At first, I thought he was just pushing me around, but after rewriting things over and over, I realized something. There are a whole lot of ways you can write about the same thing, and that's what helped me hone my skills as a writer. Chiaki raised her head back up.
Oh, wow. Really?
If you can get that, then stick with it. Ride your submission deadline as close as you have to in order to write the best piece you can.
Okay, I can do it. I will do it.
Finally, Chiaki's face brightened with a smile. That's the spirit. The woman might have talent, but she hadn't realized it yet. She needed to be able to stick to an assignment, even when things got tough. If she didn't have that kind of resolve, she'd never make it as a freelancer.
Frank. Frank. Brenda.
Oh, how touching.
Ozu chimed in, applauding.
I'm almost with the tears. They'll make a movie of this, for sure. See, we had only been acquainted with that sad sap Toyama. We never knew there was such an upstanding fellow here, who was so good at tough love.
I shot to my feet and pounded my fist on the desk. That's about enough from the peanut gallery.
Hold your tongue.
Sagawa snarled. His eyes shone with a vicious gleam.
I'm getting sick of waiting here. And I keep going.
Sagawa, you really are a short-tempered guy, aren't you?
Ozu clucked disapprovingly at his underling, then slid a sheet of paper onto my desk.
Nevertheless, I'm afraid we do require a decision now. If you'll just stay up here, we'll be on our way.
Chiaki stared down at the document.
Chiaki.
Is this a bond of reconnaissance?
Yeah, that's right. That's what you write when you transfer into debt.
Sagawa puffed himself up proudly. I silently looked over the contract.
If you don't have a stamp, we'll gladly accept the signature as well.
Ozu pointed out.
Face it, pal.
Sagawa added.
You don't hurry up and say, we're never gonna stop going after Toyama's daughter.
I snatched up a pen.
Mr. Mino, you can't do this! Think about what you're doing!
Chiaki shouted.
If you go through with this, you'll just wind up like Mr. Toyama!
I won't.
Yes, you will!
Just who the hell do you think I am? I'm Minoru Minorikawa. Damn it. I'm going to land so many scoops it will make your head spin. And I'm going to pay back this debt and rebuild Heaven Publishing.
But why would you take such a risk?
Chiaki sobbed. I lowered my voice. Because I owe him so much. I can't stand by and let these scumbags kill his daughter. I readied my pen and signed the document.
All right,
Sagawa cheered.
now we're talking.
A satisfied grin came to Ozu's face as he reached for the contract. But before he could pick it up, Chiaki snatched it from the desk.
I'm not letting her do this!
Crumpling the paper, she stuffed it right into her mouth.
Hey,
Sagawa snapped.
what the hell are you doing?
He tried to force Chiaki's mouth open.
Don't you dare, you bitch!
Despite his frantic efforts, Chiaki managed to gulp down the wad of paper. Sagawa blinked a few times.
Oh, you did not just do that.
Ozu looked on, dumbstruck.
Keep going.
Guess we gotta get a new contract in the office, boss.
Bring as many as you want.
Chiaki declared.
I'll just keep eating them.
Girl, is some kind of damn goat or something?
Sagawa shoved Chiaki up against the desk.
Ow! Cut it out! That hurts!
As she struggled to resist, Chiaki lurched towards the desk, planting one of her hands atop the TV remote control. One of her fingers happened to land on the volume up button. The sound from the television set soon hit max volume.
We have just learned that the explosion earlier claimed the life of one man. While police have stated that there is a likelihood of foul play at work, they are also pursuing leads that this was a potential suicide.
They hadn't released a name, but they must have been talking about Toyama. Feeling the impact of my mentor's death all over again, I slumped back in my chair, my body languid and lifeless. Still, there was one thing I could do for the friend I'd lost. Draw up a new contract. I'll sign it.
Mr. Mino!
Don't argue with me. I've made up my mind. Chiaki fell silent.
So we're ditching an idea now.
Ozu said with a nasty sneer.
I do hope you don't get any funny ideas about running out on us.
But I didn't need the warning. I had no such plans. Sagawa slapped a new contract onto the desk.
Here, sign it.
I signed for a second time. Sagawa stepped in to make doubly certain that Chiaki couldn't eat it.
Do you hope you're able to earn enough to pay his back in short order, Mr. Minorikawa?
With a satisfied grin, Ozu smacked him on the shoulder. I stood on deck as my ship set out across the rolling waves. In order to pay back the loan as soon as I could, I had quit my financially unreliable career as a freelancer. For over a year now, I've been sailing the seas, tossed by wind and waves as I went in pursuit of my new goal. But as I gazed out over the vast, wild ocean, my eyes shone the self-same gleam that had lit my days as a reporter chasing after the truth. Pen exchanged for fishing rod, I sought a brand new destiny. Forge onward. For the diamonds of the sea, the rare bluefin tuna.